Hello, HMS Bobcats. Welcome back to another week here at the Helen Middle School. It's great to be with you. On today's Bob lesson, it's going to be part 3 of the anxious generation. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this intro because I want to allow maximum time possible to tie the first 2 episodes together with the third and kind of give you all a conclusion to wrap this whole thing up. So that being said, I'm going to do a quick review of the first 2, going to get into the final part. I hope this series has been good for you. It's been a long time since I felt this strongly about these issues going on and how society has changed. And so I'm hoping some of you are taking some of this to heart. Make a great week. All right, we're off and running on this week's Bob lesson, The Anxious Generation, Part 3, titled Overprotected Offline, Underprotected Online. But first, let's be our best this week at HMS. Let's be Bob. Let's be safe. Let's be responsible. Let's be respectful. And let's be a building full of learners. Okay, to review, I asked you all to take a 10,000-foot view. That is, step away far enough away, metaphorically, so that you can really get a bird's eye view of everything that's going on right now. We looked at anxiety numbers through the roof with young people going back to 2008. We looked at depression numbers through the roof going back to roughly 2010. Self-satisfaction has plummeted. How much sleep kids are getting has gone down. Evenings out for fun has gone down. Meeting up with friends daily has gone down. Feeling like you feel confident enough or you can securely say that you have friends to get with together have gone down. Feelings of loneliness have gone up. Average time daily spent with your friends have gone down. Then in episode 2, we started looking at the different ways that our generation, your teacher's generation, spent their time. And you'll notice that it was a lot of face-to-face, in-person, bikes were involved, free play, free range. Even Mr. Kepler had this cool map here from back in Pennsylvania of what he would do. And then we saw these cute cubs and wolf pups, and we got into play and how awesome play is for self-esteem, for lowering anxiety, for just your overall mental health and well-being, your physical development, your cognitive development, all of those things. So you may be asking yourself, what happened and how are these things connected? Technology is what happened, specifically this thing, the iPhone, the smartphone. Apple released the first smartphone in 2010, right when all of these numbers started to dip. Technology as a whole continued to advance, whether it's social media, video games, and the way we consumed news and information. Parenting changed in 2010. With the flow of news, all of a sudden there was this perception out there that the world was maybe a more dangerous place than it really was. Maybe in the 90s, the 80s, there was dangers out there, but the information wasn't as readily available. With the advent of the smartphone, information was more available, so we started being consumed with negative and tragic things. Tragic things are always going to happen in our world, and they're always going to be there. But that had parents second guessing how they're going to parent and how much free range and outdoor activities they're going to give their kids. If we recall from the previous slides, playing, meeting up in person, riding your bikes, having free range, taking small risks was really important for fending off anxiety. And when our kids stopped doing that, they traded in their physical safety and health for their mental health. And at the same time that happened, people started connecting through technology more. So now all of a sudden, from a parenting perspective, we could have kids at home in their rooms, safe from all the dangers in the world. And then kids wanted to pick these things up and connect on social media. And that we know that's damaging to kids' mental health. The same thing happened with video games. Video games and technology got better. So now all of a sudden those are a more appealing option to play video games and connect with your friends online and playing video games instead of connecting with your friends and playing in person. Everything digital got better. We as human beings got hooked in to everything digital. and we stopped connecting in person, we stopped taking small, developmentally appropriate risks in person. And so our physical safety improved, but our mental health and our anxiety and our depression and our connectivity mental health took a downward spiral. Prior to 2010, before the advent of the smartphone, when technology wasn't as available, it wasn't as enticing, people were forced to get together. They were forced to be outside. They were forced to connect in person. They were forced to be in nature. They were forced to connect out in the sun, all things that are great for your mental health, all things that are great for true connection. And then technology came along and people became bedrotting, and the term bedrotting came along. And I think these two slides are so powerful in looking at, the upper left. Like, we think we're connected with people, but we're in a dark room and we're lonely and we're isolated and we're by ourselves. We think we're connected with our friends on video games, but really we are in a dark room once again by ourselves. And adolescents have become trained to think that connection is through the phone, and that is how we are connecting and building relationships. But it's truly coming at the cost, and it's detrimental to our mental health, as outlined from the book in the slides that I first presented in the first episode of this Bob lesson. All right, so what are the takeaways? How are we going to tie all this together? Anxiety, depression, and mental health issues among adolescents have skyrocketed since 2010. It was right there in the charts, right there in the data. The first smartphone, coincidentally, was released in 2010, giving access to social media, the internet, and just in general information. It put that in everybody's hands in a way that had never been accessible before. And as a result of some of this, parenting started to change as the flood of information made parents rethink how much freedom they gave their children in relation to the perceived danger in the world. All of a sudden, news flowed and everybody was more connected. And then parents were made much more aware of not the good things happening in the world, but a lot of the negative things happening in the world. As a result of this, children and adolescents started spending less time outdoors playing because of the perceived dangers, and more time indoors where it was perceived to be safe. Children and adolescents also found an attractive substitute in smartphones, video games, and technology. So two things are happening right now. It's not safe to be outside, ride your bike to the friends, ride your bike around, go on walks, go meet up at the park to play. Like, that's not safe anymore, so stay inside. At the same time, here's a attractive substitute: technology, video games. Be on your phone. That's going to keep you safe. And these tools made parents feel like they were physically safe, but failed to see the dangers of connecting with strangers online and the damage to mental health that the fake connections of connecting online, connecting through social media, connecting through video games had. So the physical safety of kids was never greater, but the mental health, it came at the cost of mental health. So what can you do? Pretty simple takeaways from this. What you can do is make plans with friends to connect in person. Let's have our connections be in person. Let's have them not be over the phones, not over technology, but let's have them be in person. Have those connections be outside if possible. Have those connections be active, where we're moving, we're running, we're getting our heart rates up, and appropriate risk-taking if possible. I think about a couple of years ago when we got the new piece of equipment, the Jungle Gym equipment, and everybody was freaking out. So many kids are going to get hurt by that thing. But that thing is the perfect example of appropriate risk-taking. And by taking those appropriate risks, and we'll talk about this more at the quote of the week, that is how kids build confidence. That is how kids squash anxiety and challenge anxiety. And limit your access to and dependence on devices, video games, social media, blue screens, all of that. Study after study has shown how social media is especially harmful to females. It's harmful to both genders, but especially harmful to females. And video games are especially harmful to males. All right, this lesson's quote of the week, we actually have a couple. The first is from Jordan Peterson's book, Do Not Bother Children When They Are Skateboarding. And kind of the core idea behind this is that appropriate levels of risk, danger, and voluntary confrontation with fear are essential for healthy development. By overprotecting kids, you end up making yourselves weaker, more anxious, and less capable. Risk taking teaches competence. Overprotecting yourself can backfire when you're faced with it in real life when you're an adult. Danger in life is unavoidable. Like it's everywhere. Life itself is inherently risky. Competence beats safety rules. Let kids go out and do appropriate risky things where they can scrape their knee, they can scrape their elbow, things can go wrong. The other quote of the week is from Albert Einstein. While humans invented the atomic bomb, no mouse in the world would ever build a mousetrap. And the quote points to a stark contrast between intelligence and restraint. Animals use their abilities to survive, not to create tools like video games, like social media, like smartphones that could wipe out their own species. Humans, on the other hand, possess the capacity to invent technologies powerful enough to threaten their future, which I think is exactly what we've done. Whether taken literally or symbolically, the idea challenges how progress is defined. It asks an uncomfortable question. Having intelligence is one thing, but how responsibly do we choose to use it? Getting back to that 10,000-foot view. Due to the length of this Bob lesson and keeping it under 12 minutes, unfortunately, I do not have a Jelly Bean question of the week. Just here to finish this by saying, make a great week's Bobcats. We'll be back next week.